welcome to a 10-1-10-1 review. My name is Nessa and today I'll be talking about Everholm and how I felt playing the game after 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 hours, and 1 year in-game. As a person who does not have a lot of time to play games, I think that first impressions are important, and the first 10 minutes to an hour of a game should give you the basic rundown of what the game has to offer. That being said, I also know that farming and life sim games, RPGs, and overall cozy games might need some time to shine, which is why I think it's important to review the game at 10 hours and after a year in-game. How I felt at the 1 hour mark might change at 10 hours, and that could drastically change again after I've gone through an entire year. I won't be rating Everholm on a scale, but I'll talk about my experiences and things that I liked and wished it did differently, so you can make an informed choice on whether the game is for you. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Everholm was developed by Chonky, Loaf and released on November 11, 2024. The game is described as an open-ended, minimalistic role-playing game that is casual and cozy. In this game, you can farm, forage, fish, raise livestock, fight monsters, and build up your relationship with the townsfolk. Everholm retails for $19.99 USD, and it's available on the PC. You play as Lily, a person that seems to have lost her memories of the people around her, and you're desperately trying to find your sister Melanie. As of this review, I don't know what happened to Melanie, and I have not really uncovered any secrets of Everholm. There's a lot of mystery that happens right away when the game starts. There's no customization options available besides being able to choose a username. You start as a red-haired girl walking around a dark place with shadows and lit-up lampposts. The name you chose at the beginning is not the same name as your character, as you soon find out that her name is Lily. You're following your sister Melanie into a portal that clearly seems to be some sort of trap laid out by this big shadowy monster creature who calls wherever you went off to its domain. Right away, I was already very suspicious of the place you wake up in. It seems super cozy, but there is something terribly off about this place. Seems like you have amnesia since no one remembers that you have a sister, but they do remember various commitments and conversations that they've had with you. The first character you talk to, Mary, is there to return your tools, and then you're pretty free to do whatever you want. The tutorial in the game comes in the form of text that tells you which key is bind to which action while you're coming downstairs. The game doesn't hold your hand in teaching you how to farm beyond a couple lines of text from Mary. During the first 10 minutes, I was able to plant my first crops. I really like how quick the actions are. Tilling, sowing, watering doesn't take up too much time, and I like that the area grid is not a single tile in front of you. You can also see the adjacent tiles that you're able to target as well. After managing my farm, I wandered around town, admiring the isometric art style and how the town is laid out. I got my fishing rod pretty fast once I talked to the fish market NPC. I think this is probably the quickest I've ever gotten one, since NPCs usually do not give them out to strangers in the first 10 minutes. The fishing minigame is pretty straightforward in the sense where you have to keep the fish inside of a small area to fill up the meter so that you can catch it. If the fish spends too much time outside of the area, then it will escape. I was able to catch some fish, so I was happy that the minigame wasn't too difficult. I also appreciate that you can toggle on and off the fishing minigame in the settings menu, because I eventually did toggle this off. Pretty quickly, I learned that having low stamina will slow down my character's running speed, so it became very important to forage mushrooms in order to keep my stamina above the threshold for the debuff. I was able to do quite a bit in the first 10 minutes, and I was very excited to see what would happen next. The mysterious circumstances surrounding Lily's entrance into this town, and the fact that she doesn't remember anything and no one remembers her sister is extra weird to me, so I was really invested to find out the truth of this town. 5 days flew by after 1 hour of playing. During this time, I did more of what I did during my 10 minutes, which included wandering around town to talk to the different townsfolk and fulfilling the quest to talk to 15 of them, farming and expanding the number of crops I have in my field, fishing, and trying to find my sister. The only new system that was introduced in the 1 hour of play was the job board, where Lily can take on jobs for the townsfolk to get a reward. The jobs that I took on mainly involved having specific crafted items and forageables to give to the the townsfolk. Once you accept the job, then you have a deadline to complete it, and you have to find the person who made the request to turn it in. The requests don't seem to refresh every day, so at this point I'm guessing they're available weekly since the deadline for all of the first requests is 7 days. Taking requests from the board is part of the main story quest to find Lily's sister, so currently there's nothing else that I'm doing beyond working on my farm. Later, I did find out that these jobs do refresh every week. The crafting in this game is pretty standard. You approach your crafting bench and select the items that you want to make once you have the materials needed for it. It seems as though recipes can be bought through different stores and also through fulfilling some quests. It's too early to tell what the gameplay loop will look like since I'm a little soft locked right now in terms of progressing through the story until I finish 20 job requests, so I'm definitely eager to see how long it's going to take me to do this. The gameplay loop at 1 hour is pretty simplistic in terms of simple farming mechanics and crafting mechanics with a dash of building relationships with the townsfolk. I think there are events in this game, although the first one that I witnessed was really short and it only involved a kid throwing eggs at someone's house. I'm not exactly sure why the kid was throwing eggs, and after the cutscene ended, the house owner didn't reference it at all. I'm curious to see whether there's more events with the townsfolk since right now I really don't know them. After 1 hour, I'm still super intrigued about the story and what happened to Lily's sister. I was very motivated to continue playing to see more of what the game has to offer and whether the systems will get more complex. I reached 10 hours by summer 18. Most of my time was spent farming and mining in the unlocked underworld. In Everholm, each underworld floor is pretty big compared to the mine floors in the other farming sim games, but the concept is pretty similar in the way that you have to defeat enemies or break rocks in order to find a way down to the next level. One of the things that I did notice about this game is there's only one way down per level, so I did have to spend a lot of time running around trying to find the last rock I missed or the last hidden bush enemy to defeat. I unlocked the second area around summer 10. However, it is really difficult with the weapon that I currently have access to at this point, so I wasn't able to advance much further since my 10 hours were up. I managed to upgrade my farm a bit by purchasing a chicken coop and also started the upgrade on my house right at the 10-hour mark. The chickens are pretty low maintenance. They require hay daily, even if they're allowed access outside. Hay is made right now by processing grass in a machine since I haven't been able to construct a silo yet. The chickens all have a favorite food, which happens to be sunflowers, and will also give me sunflower seeds and eggs daily, which I thought was super cool since I don't know of any other games where animals will give you seeds daily in that way. Around the 6-hour mark, I remember that I had access to the witch Fiona's shop where she sells a variety of interesting spells and things to make my life easier. A lot of the shop requires items that I didn't have access to yet, so it was pretty easy to forget about. Luckily, I did have access to the materials needed for the broom, which really helped Lily get around town so much faster. Although I had previously unlocked a dash skill during the 10 hours, it requires energy to use, so you'll be spent making your way across town while the broom does not have the same energy requirements. Usually around the 10-hour mark is when I develop my relationships a bit more with the townsfolk. However, this is not the case in Everholm since I haven't really made any friends yet. I have a lot of acquaintances that I sometimes see, but the majority of my focus was on mining and building up my farm because I was fueled by my motivation to find my sister. The characters don't stand out as much to me, even though most of them are nice and their designs are unique enough for me to recognize them when I'm wandering around town. They have interesting dialogue in regards to something sinister lurking underneath the town's pretty surface. However, in terms of talking about themselves and what they like, it's pretty generic, I would say. I think the relationship building aspect is also hard because the NPCs already believe that they have a relationship with Lily, so they do not offer information that you would offer to a stranger in order to get to know you. They already assume that Lily has this information, but that's detrimental to us as both the player and as Lily because it puts up a barrier in terms of getting to know them. There's no romance in this game, so that might also have played a factor into why I haven't been too motivated to become closer to them. Usually, I'm the type of person to be super into relationship in farming sim games, so the lack of romance personally may be a big factor in whether or not I feel invested in the characters. Of course, this is my own subjective feeling at the 10-hour mark, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to develop more friendships with them as time goes on. I haven't seen another cutscene since the first egg throwing one back in my first hour, so I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to see more after the 10 hours, and that might help me build relationships as well as I get to know the villagers a little bit more. I wasn't having as much fun as I thought I would be during the 10-hour mark, but I am hoping that it would change once I get to be a bit more powerful so I can go deeper in the underworld, and then I can get more ores and upgrade my tools. I really wanted to get a better watering can so I can plant more crops to make more money and get a barn as well as expand my farm a little bit. So with an optimistic look, I went onward as there were still 2 more seasons to go. I was already struggling a lot with the combat and underworld dungeon system in Everholm during the 10 hours, and unfortunately, this did continue after the 10 hours, since there still wasn't an easy way to upgrade your weapon. I had previously gotten a bee cannon sometime after beating the first dungeon area, but it really didn't help too much in the next unlocked dungeon. It takes stamina to use, and it would summon bees that theoretically could attack enemies. I say theoretically since they had a very hard time attacking one very special enemy, the bats. The bats are just the most annoying enemies that I have ever faced in a game, and I'm very familiar with monsters in mines and various other games. After taking a hit, the bats will fly off and then come back to attack you, on top of either their hitbox being really small or my weapon's attack range being very limited. Lily will miss whenever I'm trying to fend them off while trying to get further into the dungeon. I didn't feel like I was having much fun at all, and it took quite a bit of perseverance and change mindset to get through the levels. I eventually had to make it a goal to complete 5 levels at a time before I unlocked the 3rd dungeon area. This involves stocking up on HP healing items and also stamina regen items. So some days I would go back to the Meadowlands underworld level and fight monsters in order to get the items that I needed, and other days I would attempt 5 levels in the 2nd dungeon area. I really considered not going farther into the dungeons because of the bats and how insanely not fun it was to get through the 2nd area. Luckily, the 3rd underworld dungeon area was much easier, and even though there was a different type of flying enemies called blight flies, their hitbox seemed to be normal since I was not missing them as much as I was missing the bats. They seem much less annoying to deal with, and this 3rd area also had the resources I needed to unlock the hammer, which is such a powerful weapon. Even though it uses stamina like the bee cannon, I was actually able to use it on all enemies, and I got a significant power boost to the point where the bats became less annoying when I had to go back to that level later to grind monster drops. At about 10 minutes shy of 25 hours, I finally made it back to spring in year 2, and I couldn't be happier. I learned a lot of things during the winter time that I didn't really pay attention to the rest of the year in the game, and that being star stones serve as collection points around the map. Just like the community center in Stardew Valley, the Starstones have different bundle requests, and when you fulfill a request, you gain a small reward. Unfortunately, I was not focused on finishing the Starstones during the first year because I thought the story would progress a bit more if I reached the end of the underworld mines. This was not the case, however. I spent about 6 hours of real-time grinding monsters to collect drops so I can complete the Starstones on the 20th floor of each zone because I was expecting something to happen, like the area in the middle of the underworld starting room to open up or something, but absolutely nothing happened when I finished all of the Starstones in the underworld besides getting a trinket and a recipe. To say that I was disappointed that I hunted really annoying monsters for 6 hours is quite an understatement. I literally had to go and fight bats, blight flies, and fit in sentient vines over 100 times to complete the Starstone requirements in the underworld, so I felt as though the rewards I got afterward were insufficient to make up for all of the torture that I had endured. I'm not sure if completing all the Starstones outside in addition to the underworld ones will advance the story or give you a big enough reward. At this time though, I cannot say since my year's up, and it'll be up to you to figure that out if you want to play the game. I never really found out what happened to my sisters since I also thought that the main story might also progress if I finished the quest to help the townsfolk with their job board. You have to complete 20 requests to complete the mission, and that will take you a few seasons if you maximize your time and actually have all the items that are being requested that week. If you're like me and you don't have some of the items, then it will take you longer. I managed to finish this quest in the winter time and I got a good chunk of money, but then nothing else happened. So I'm guessing that Everholm's mystery is going to remain so for the time being. With a year under my belt, it's time to talk about the things that I liked and the things that I wish the game did differently. The graphics in the game are super cute. I enjoyed all of the unique buildings and assets in the game. The decorations that are put up during the festival times look totally amazing, and I loved going to the underworld the first time and being completely awed that it wasn't just a dark mine with rocks in it. This is probably my favorite review game to clip and post on my Blue Skies since the graphics are very cozy, and I love the different things that the villagers are up to. You can find them reading on a bench, painting, eating, and overall just living their lives. Along with the graphics, I really like the different festivals and how they have their own space for celebration. I think the Christmas festival is one of my favorite in these types of games since there are presents dropping from the sky and you can go around town using your slingshot to get various items and blueprints. You can also use ornaments that you found during the season to decorate the tree before it is lit up, and I think that is just super adorable. I like that the game sends reminders whenever my mana, stamina, or health is low, and if I have something in my inventory that can help me, then it would recommend that to me. Usually you expect cramped spaces and farming sim mines, but the underworld in Everholm is quite large and expansive. I like that you can revisit floors after every 5 levels, and the floors will reset every time you leave and come back, so enemies and items will respawn, allowing you to grind resources on the same level again and again without having to continuously try and find the portal to go to another floor. I really like the broom. Once you get it, you can zip around town pretty fast, and it also teleports back to its spot on the farm the next day if you leave it somewhere and forget about it. Able to get coal by hitting the pottery in the Meadowlands underworld, although I did find out this fairly quickly when I accidentally hit a pot with my sickle while trying to cut grass. It still took me a few days to register that I could do this. Coal only drops occasionally from rocks, so it could be quite difficult to get if you didn't know that you could break the pots to get it. It is used a lot to turn ores into bars, so you definitely want to stock up. That being said, it's definitely recommended to start the Starstones around town early on since you will need items from all seasons, and you will have to wait a year if you do not get the seasonal item you need to complete a bundle. The bundles do give you interesting rewards such as a coal maker, so you can turn trees into coal. So you don't have to follow my first tip if you do this one. The Starstones in the underworld can be completed at any time since the items you will need will be in their respective biomes, so you definitely can hold off on them until the winter time when there's not much to do. I wish the characters in the game were a little bit more fleshed out. I didn't feel compelled to befriend anyone in town as the seasons went on. I did like watching them go about their lives and doing things around town, but I never felt the need to prioritize talking to them or had an interest in actually making friends with anyone. Their dialogue was pretty generic for the most part. I did remember that Mary hates Michael and likes to complain about him a lot, and Thomas is just a grouchy person all year long, but beyond that, I didn't feel that connection with anyone in particular. This one is really unfortunate since I was very excited to know the villagers more. In the beginning, they were always alluding to something sinister happening, and the game encourages you to build the relationships because the villagers are supposed to be the key to unlocking this mystery as well. I think that stronger dialogue would have motivated me more to talk to them, and maybe cutscenes with different villagers to learn more about them would also help. There were no other cutscenes I found since that one kid throwing egg one, and that's such a shame to me because I came in very hopeful, and a few seasons in I just didn't feel the need to talk to them. Like I mentioned earlier while playing the game, since the villagers already believed that they had an established relationship with Lily, they didn't go out of their way to build that relationship, which made me not really care to build it on my own. I'm not a fan of Lily slowing down when she's running low on stamina, although I understand the concept of slowing down when you're tired, and Everholm is not the first or certainly not the last game to do this. It's just really annoying to have no stamina and then have to slowly walk all the way home from the underworld, although this was not so difficult after I played the game for a while and was able to stock up on food. It was quite annoying in the beginning. I really dislike having to grind so many monsters in the underworld to complete the Starstones requirements. I usually don't mind having to fight monsters to get their drops, but having to go in again and again to get 150 bat wings or watch larvae turn into bright flies before I can attack them just to have a chance to get their wing drops to fulfill the request was really tedious, and I did not enjoy the process at all. I only did it because I was motivated by the story to tough it out, but if I knew that there was really not a reward waiting for me at the end of the journey, then I don't know if I would do it again. I wasn't really expecting much. If it is in fact true that you have to complete all of the Starstones before something happens, at least when all the Starstones in the underworld are completed, I would just like one small sentence or dialogue that says, oh, I feel like I'm closer to my goal, or something to just let me know that I was on the right track. Instead, I got radio silence, and that just made me feel even more discouraged. I didn't like that the story opened with such a mystery and then never really talked about it again after a while. During my time playing, I was mainly motivated by my intrigue and wanting to know what happened to my sister. However, the more days passed and I didn't get any crumb of an answer left me pretty devoid of caring after a while, especially when nothing happened after completing the quest that I thought would be clues to the mystery. This might be the goal of the shadowy figure that trapped Lily in their domain, so that she just forgets about her goal and lives her life in ignorant bliss. I'm not sure, but it really seems like I'm also trapped now because I just don't care about the story anymore because nothing has happened. The story did not progress at all during the year I was playing, so like I said, I stopped caring about it. There were quests to do, but no fanfare after completing the quest or acknowledgement that I was one step closer to solving this mystery. It seems a lot of the hard work that I did went largely under-rewarded, and I didn't think that my time was being respected. I am pretty curious to see what would happen once I complete the other Starstones in the village, but I'm also not sure whether I want to do that right now because I have other games that I want to play. I think that if you take away the main story and just focus on Everholm being a cozy farming sim game with cute graphics, it works way better that way because there's no expectation of story progression. If you just want to farm and hang out, then you'll probably have a good time. I like all the brief moments of respite that I got by watching the villagers do whatever they were doing, and I think this is where the game really shines. Of course, if you're like me and you were expecting to finish quests and get more information on what happened, then it might not happen and you might get disappointed before you actually find out what happened. Additionally, if you do not like combat in the mines, then you'll definitely not like this one because the grind is unavoidable to complete the Starstones, and as a person who is fine with grinding for the most part and farming sims, this grind was especially not fun for me and totally not rewarded as of this time. Of course, this is my subjective experience. Maybe if you start the Starstones earlier, you will have a vastly different one than I did. I do recommend that if you like the game, if you like the graphics, if you think that you want to try it out, I still recommend that you at least try the demo and see whether this game is for you. Well, there you have it. What do you think of Everholm? Have you played? Let me know in the comments what you think of the game, whether you found your sister, and if the journey was worth it. If you like what I do and you want to see more, please consider liking and subscribing to see more content like this. I love doing these reviews and I hope to continue doing them for a very long time, so it would really mean the world to me to have your support. This has been a 10-1-10-1 and I have been Nessa. I'm going to freestyle fly my broom into the horizon. Take care. Bye.